Hi, Intro to Theater. Okay, so as you know, I am not in school today because I'm at an AP conference, but I'm thinking about you. And as I'm thinking about you, I decided that before you take the quiz today on makeup application, I wanted to give you a little brief video tutorial, a reminder. So, this is about a 10-minute little reminder review of the material we've got over the last few days about makeup for the stage before you take that quiz. So, the first thing that I want to talk to you about is why we have to do stage makeup in the first place and why it's so different from makeup that we do in our everyday lives. So, we're going to take a look, for example, first at the type of theater that you have. So, this type of theater right here is called a black box theater. As you can see, the distance from the actor to the audience is not that great. That means that the theater itself then is not, the makeup itself then doesn't have to be as dramatic. So my makeup, for example, for the street could be okay for black box, but I'd probably want to do a little bit more definition so that you can see like the people who are sitting in the back row here, even though it's not that far away, could see me just as well as the people who are sitting in the front row. That's a black box theater. Now it gets more complicated when we talk about if we're looking at a larger auditorium, such as the Auditorium Theater in Chicago. So Auditorium Theater in Chicago, as you can see, if you are in the upper gallery, which is where we are currently sitting in this picture, this is a stage the size of West Campus stage right down here. So this stage, distance from any seat in here just about, is going to be much, much greater than a black box theater. So to be able to see the actors' faces in this black box theater or in this auditorium theater is pretty important, and therefore the use of makeup is required for that. Another thing that requires us to use makeup is the use of stage lighting. We talked a little bit about how stage lighting, such as this right here, enhances our ability to see on the stage, but it also flattens features. So particularly if you're lighting directly from on the front of the stage, which if we put on a play at the East Campus Theater, it's almost the only option that we have because we don't have a lot of lighting above the stage to light from behind or from the sides. So this really flattens the feature. Notice how the eyes right here in this like doll, virtual reality doll, are a little bit flattened. So therefore we have to highlight those eyes a little bit better. Okay. The next thing that we want to look at is what sort of things make up our case, our makeup case. So looking at this picture right here, a few things that make up a good makeup case is paintbrushes, which I talked to you about that you can buy, pencils, which you want to use sparingly, foundation that will match your skin tone, and these are all three. We've got highlight, contour, and then we've got color, plus a regular foundation. One thing we didn't talk about is this right here, which is called a stipple sponge. Stipple sponge is something if you put in contour or in color and you pat it on the face, it creates texture to the skin that you don't normally have. You guys have beautiful, lovely skin because you're teenagers. And yes, I know, not you're still concerned about your skin, but as you get older, your skin tends to, like pores tend to get larger and things like that. Stipple sponge is actually used for two things. One, for people who don't have facial hair, you could use a stipple sponge to add the appearance of stubble on a face. You can also use a stipple sponge dipped into some darker color, like cheek color, on your face to show like larger pores. This is the contents of a basic makeup kit right here. But if you were interested in seeing like a larger makeup kit that you can buy as you're starting out into theater, this is the Ben Nye makeup kit. And you can see that it's got a lot more involved in it. Some colors and color wheel. It's got spirit gum remover. Got your powder, makeup sponges, a variety of those, as well as pencils, a variety of brushes, and Q-tips that can kind of add to that. So those are the basic contents of your makeup kit. A couple other things that we've sort of talked about before is powder. This is set powder. When you're done with your makeup, one of the last things that you do is you use this beautiful powder sponge to kind of powder off the face to make sure that the makeup is set. This is Ben Nye's neutral set. It is colorless, so it's not going to change the color of your makeup at all, and it kind of sets the makeup and holds it into place. We also talked about spirit gum, and I showed you, or tried to show you, with the very old spirit gum in the theater department's kit, why spirit gum is used, and it's used for prosthetics. Now, when we use prosthetics in makeup design, it's to attach things to the skin that aren't normally there. So if you look at this prosthetic, for example, we've got feathers and beads and things like that added to this to give this like otherworldly alien effect. But this girl has attached some facial hair in order to appear more masculine, and that's also the use of spirit gum. And then finally, we can use spirit gum to attach prosthetics like a fake nose or things like that to kind of create a different effect. These are things that makeup can't do, and we need to have prosthetics in order to do that and show that to people. Finally, when you remove oil-based makeup, which is called grease paint, as opposed to cake makeup is considered water-based, but when you remove oil-based makeup, you need two things. One is cold cream. This is my favorite brand of cold cream, the Pond's cold cream. You can use that, spread it on your face with your fingers, and then wipe off with a paper towel or napkins. And then when you're done with that, using some oil eliminating astringent will help with kind of the greasiness that's sometimes left over from cold cream. The other thing that we've talked about this week is the importance of contouring for the stage. Not something that we typically do in our street makeup, but adding shadows. And these are some of the places where shadowing is best used. And highlights. And this is some of the places where it's a good idea to add a highlight to your faces in order to give your face a little bit more definition. So if we look at a male straight makeup, we can take a look at this picture right here, and we can see that this straight makeup is slightly enhanced. My personal opinion of this male straight makeup is that it's a little too pale. If you get up on the lights, that'll be a little bit, it'll make this person look very pale, unless you're trying to make him look pale. So straight makeup here, not so bad. You can see there's some contouring here around the temple area and a little bit on the cheek. This one is a little bit better. You'll notice that it's got contouring as well as highlight along the jawline to make that jaw stand out a little bit more. It's got some contouring around the eye and the nose and in the temple. You can kind of see how that contouring works with highlight as well as shadow. Okay, that's the little brief overview for you. A couple other things that you want to keep in mind is that it's really important to analyze your character before you kind of design the makeup, so that you know exactly what kind of environment that person is living in. If someone's living in a more rugged environment, then their makeup is not going to be as pristine and nice looking. So you might want to think about how you do that. Remember, we talked about the musical Urinetown, and in Urinetown, all the characters are lower class and living in rough environments. So you want to think about, how do I create the makeup for that? Other things that you want to talk about, or that you want to remember and keep in mind, is things like why the size of the auditorium might have an effect on characters, and some of the steps that we take when we are designing character makeups. So hopefully that's given you a brief little reminder before you take the quiz. And I'm hoping that when I get back tomorrow and I take a look at the quizzes that Mr. Sinclair is about to give you, that they're all well done and another 100%. Bye.